And welcome back to Cape Town. And as you know, some very important work being done here. It's the launch of one of the newest Thuthuzela care centres. And this morning we are at the Victoria Hospital in Wynberg in Cape Town. So you heard earlier from Dr. Swanepoel. We also spoke to Advocate Kari Gamo as well as Advocate Shamila Batoy about the work that is being done at these Thuthuzela care centres. Just want to read one or two of your comments this morning. This one is from Kalana, who says, morning, Sakina. Why do you need to be a victim to have access to such centres? We need to be proactive in our approach, and government must support community-based organisations for a more proactive approach. And then there's one, I'll basically keep you anonymous, and it says, thank you so much for the show. As a rape victim, it gives me hope that other women will be able to get help from these institutions. And thank you so much for those and all the other messages coming through. Really appreciate it. I'm joined now by Minister Ronald Lamola, who's of course the Minister for Correctional Services and Justice. Thanks so much, Minister. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you, Sakina, and to the viewers at home.
Minister, of course, as being echoed by so many of our viewers this morning, this is an absolutely fabulous facility. This is an award-winning initiative with these Thuthuzela care centres. And the question is, of course, how much quicker can we roll out many more of these centres across the country?
Yeah, indeed, Sakina, it is great work. And it is for that reason that we are helping the NPA, all the departments that converge here to roll out through a budget. And we are also working with the private sector because government alone can't afford to do this thing. And we are grateful that also the private sector is coming to the party, the NGOs. It's where everyone in society is converging. And this shows that if we all put our hands together, we can beat anything. Because as you look at this facility, it increases the chances of someone who has committed a crime being convicted. And that is the biggest deterrent that we need. So if we're able to work together like this, we do believe that we can beat anything in this country.
So speaking of the interministerial working relationship around a facility like this, but of course it has to move beyond the Thuthuzela Care Centre because there are so many other cases that will never come to this centre or anyone like it.
Yes, it has to move beyond that, but you need to start somewhere. And for us, this is the initiative that shows us what can work and what cannot work. And with those lessons, you are then able to replicate them on other crimes that we have as a country. But we do believe that if we can deal with most of these crimes related to gender-based violence, sexual offenses, and reduce them, and anyone who is committing this type of a crime anywhere in the country, knowing that the chances of them being arrested, it will reduce the crime, but it will also affect the entire crime rate in the whole value chain.
So when we started this morning, you know, just showcasing the centre and the various facilities that are here and also the services on offer, the very first section spoke to where the perpetrators would come in, but also where victims who are inmates would come in. And that, of course, has always been the bane for many a civic organization protesting and also advocating for the rights of prisoners in South Africa. What is being done about that, the overcrowding in prison facilities?
Yeah, obviously, this is where medicine and the law converge. If that is the case, it means that you will have both the victims and the perpetrators coming into the space. And the issue is how you manage that for the benefit of all the participants who are coming to seek the medical attention in the space. But with regards to overcrowding, Sakina, the best way to reduce it is to reduce the level of crime. It needs to start in the community, and that's why we are grateful that we here with all the stakeholders participating, and if all of us play a role to grow up and to groom the boy's child, knowing that they must extend love to any woman, we are not going to have a lot of them coming into our spaces. In the majority of our facilities, it's young boys. If we are able to create that environment in society, spreading love, affirming them because they are the weakest They are the weaker people, affirming and them growing up knowing that their role in society is not to spread hatred, is not to spread violence, but to spread love. That is what we need, and we are grateful that we are beginning to see the convergence of all stakeholders in society to fight crime of whatever nature.
And I can't disagree with you on that sentiment, because you are correct. It has to start within the family unit and then spread towards society and broaden from there. However, when we look at the reality, the objective facts and what's happening within the correctional services department's facilities, you have to take some responsibility for that as government, because if someone has offended, if they have done something wrong, that should not be a sentence for them to get raped and abused in a prison facility.
Yes, that's correct, Sakin, and that's why we are adhering to the Nelson Mandela rules. But there is a reality. We have got about, on an average, plus minus 155,000 inmates across the country. Our bed facility is almost at 120,000. So you can see already it's about 82% overcrowding, which sometimes makes even it difficult for rehabilitation programs. But the department does all its best in terms of rehabilitation, in terms of ensuring that they work. As you will be aware, we have launched a self-sufficiency program where they produce what they eat, they produce a lot of things that they need to work. But in that process, it helps them with rehabilitation.
So just in terms of the level of litigation against the department because of prisoners being sexually violated within your facilities?
Yes, there is from time to time litigation related to human rights. A lot of them that the department is still able to say, these are the conditions that we put them in, and we do our best to ensure that at least there's some bit of rehabilitation that happens, and also there's no reoffending inside the facility itself, because there is also that kind of a role. But also what becomes the role of some of the officials in some of the things that happens in the facilities. And as you look at our stats, you will see that most of the officials get dismissed as a consequence management to some of the offenses that they commit and help the inmates in our facilities.
And just coming back to the Thuthuzela care centers, and again, you said you work with the private sector. So from your budget as correctional services and justice, how much of your budget do you allocate to the work that is being done in these facilities?
It's almost the foundation of all the facilities across the country. As you will be aware, it has been rolled out in the past 10 years. So there has been a huge, substantial investment by the state into the Thuthuzela care centers. And it is on that basis that we're able to engage other stakeholders to come in and help us, because the reality, Sakina, is that the resources of the state are constrained. And we do everything possible to help the NPA and all the stakeholders that they work with to ensure that there is a budget that they can be able to work in these Thuthuzela care centers. And we are very grateful that the private sector is coming in. The reality is that there is resources also out there in the private sector, which as government and them and all the NGOs, if we share and use them, there could be enough resources for this country to resolve any challenge.
And by the way, with regard to the DNA facilities, because if you look at forensic testing that is done here, samples collected and then sent off, obviously, to facilities, wherever that may be. We know that there is a backlog with some of the government facilities. So do you send your samples to those same facilities where the backlogs are, or are you able, through your collaboration with the private sector, to maybe have this fast-tracked in some way?
Yeah, obviously it has to go through that process of the SAPs, DNA, the forensic laboratory test. But I can assure you, Sakina, that from our discussions with the police and even with some of the NPA across the country, the backlog clearing is improving. There is significant improvement if you look at the numbers in the past 2020, 2021, and 2022. About 14,000 of their DNA results that has now been received by the NPA. And if you look at the stats, it has also significantly improved the work that they are doing and the processing of dockets. But that does not mean that the problem has gone away. The problem is still there, and we are continuing to engage to find ways to resolve it. And the SAPS has opened up to work with some of the institutions in the country, universities, and some of the players in the space, which I do believe will further enhance what has started.
Are you applying any sort of real pressure on the SAPS in that regard? Because we're dealing with something extremely emotive here. You know, when someone has been violated in the most vile, most personal way, the last thing they want is to wait indefinitely and further lose hope. So, you know, what sort of real pressure is being brought to bear?
Yes, I can confirm that indeed the NPA had written to us, they complained to us about this issue, and we also engaged the Minister of Police and had a discussion. You will have heard the President yesterday also said he had lots of discussions with the SAPS on the matter. And I have received also reports and stats that shows that there is a significant improvement. That's why I'm able to tell you off the cuff that there is about 14,000 of the DNA results in the past 2020, 2021, and the 2022 up until now, which shows that that pressure is beginning to bear fruits. And it is a pressure that obviously is not only applied by the NPA or by us, also society itself, the NGOs in the space, from time to time they raise the issue. But when you look at the stats now, you can see that indeed they are beginning to receive a number of these reports, which is a significant move from what we used to have in the past. And that should be a work in the right direction.
Well, Minister Lamola, thanks so much for your time. Minister of Correctional Services and Justice, they're speaking to us about the work here at the Thuthuzela care centers, and obviously also some of the issues on the ground, the testing of the DNA results, etc., and what is being done about that at the moment. Let's hand you back to the studio.